Hello, my name is Kevin Wortman. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Studies in the Department of Mathematics at the University of Utah. Welcome to Math Enrollment Video D. This is a video that specializes on trigonometry. So what we're going to do is we're going to see 5 different trigonometry problems. I'll show you a problem. You'll put it on pause. You'll work through a problem. Once you come up with a solution, unpause it. I'll come back. We'll talk about the solutions together. While you work on the solutions to these problems, I ask that you do so without use of a computer or a calculator or your phone, without another person's help, without a book or notes. And the reason I ask you to work on the solutions that way is because instructors in certain courses that we'll talk about at the end of this video will expect you to be able to solve these problems without those tools. So we're going to talk about these 5 problems. We'll go through them. Once we're done, we'll talk about how you did and what that means about which courses might be good for you to enroll in. Let's start with the first one. Find sine of pi thirds, cosine of pi thirds, and tangent of pi thirds using the picture that's in the bottom left corner of your screen. So there is a unit circle of radius 1. Well, the picture speaks for itself. I'll let you work this out. Go ahead and pause the video here, and when you're finished, unpause it, and we'll talk about the solution. Welcome back. Sine of pi over 3. Well, looking in the picture on the bottom left, we have an angle of pi over 3. So it's that red point on the unit circle that we're looking at. Its y-coordinate is the square root of 3 divided by 2. And that's what sine of pi over 3 is. It's the y-coordinate of that point. So the answer is simply square root of 3 divided by 2. Cosine of pi over 3 is the x-coordinate of that point. So it's just a half. And then tangent of pi over 3 is sine of pi over 3 divided by cosine pi over 3. And we know what sine of pi over 3 is. It's above at the top of your screen. We already figured that out. It's square root of 3 divided by 2. And we had already figured out what cosine of pi over 3 is as well. We had figured out that was 1/2. So the answer is square root of 3 divided by 2 divided by 1 divided by 2. The 2's cancel, and you're left with the square root of 3 divided by 1, or simply the square root of 3. That's what tangent of pi thirds is, the square root of 3, and that is the solution to the first problem. Let's go ahead and move on to the second problem. So let's find cosine of 3/4 pi and sine of minus pi halves. And you can use the picture in the bottom left of your screen to do that. Go ahead, press pause here, work out a solution, and when you're done, come back. We'll talk about it together. Welcome back. Let's start with cosine of 3/4 pi. This is 3 quarter pi's rotations, and it's a positive number, so we're rotating in the counterclockwise direction, starting with the positive x-axis. So starting at the positive x-axis, we rotate 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 pi. That means we're looking at the red point in the something like the left upper corner of the circle, that red point there. And we're talking about cosine, so that means we're looking at the x-axis, or the x-coordinate, excuse me. And the x-coordinate here is minus 1 over the square root of 2. So that's our answer. Negative 1 over the square root of 2, that's cosine of 3/4 pi. What about sine of minus pi halves? Well, pi halves is 2 quarter pi's, so we're going to twice rotate quarter pi, and there's a negative number here. So that means we're going to rotate in the clockwise direction. We're going to start with the positive x-axis and rotate 1/4, 2/4 pi, that is pi halves altogether, and that's negative pi half rotation. And we're looking at the point now at the bottom of our circle. The x-coordinate is 0, the y-coordinate is -1. Sine asks for the y-coordinate. So here the answer is -1. Sine of minus pi halves is -1. Let's move on to our third problem. And this is a matching problem. It's something of a multiple choice problem. There are 4 functions written on the second portion of this screen here. The functions are sine of x, cosine of x, tangent of x, and sine inverse of x. A lot of people prefer the name arcsine to sine inverse. Either one are great choices. They're both the same function, so whichever one you're more comfortable with, just use that one. And there are 4 graphs on the bottom of your screen, and this problem asks you to match the 4 functions in the middle of the screen with the 4 graphs at the bottom of the screen. If you don't know, if you're not confident about what sine inverse or arcsine, what its graph looks like, that's probably okay for this video, but you should be able to figure it out by process of elimination. So I'll give you a chance to work on that. When you're all done, unpause and come back and we'll talk about the solution. Welcome back. The top left corner of the screen is cosine of x. The top right corner is sine of x. The bottom left corner is sine inverse of x or arcsine, and the bottom right corner is tangent of x. That was problem number 3. Let's go ahead and move to problem number 4. These are trigonometry problems, so let's start looking at triangles. The right triangle below has a hypotenuse of length 13. One side, another side has length 7, and there's an unknown side. In this picture, it's labeled with the number b. We're supposed to figure out the length of the third side. So what is b? That's this problem, find b. Press pause, figure that out. When you're all done, come back and we'll talk about the solution. Welcome back. To solve for b, you can use the Pythagorean theorem. The Pythagorean theorem says that the square of the hypotenuse is the sum of the squares of the other two sides. So that is 7 squared plus b squared is 13 squared. That's the Pythagorean theorem in this case. 7 squared is 49. 13 squared is 169. Now you can subtract 49 and you'll have the b squared equals 120. Take a square root. B is the square root of 120. And if you have it in that form, that's great. You can just leave it like that. And that's a correct answer. Some people will go one step further in simplifying. That's probably ideal, but for this video, it's unnecessary. You can pull a 4 out of 120. And when you pull that 4 out of the square root, it'll become a 2. And so you can also write the answer as b equals 2 times the square root of 30. So if you have either of those solutions, those are correct. B equals the square root of 120, or equivalently, b equals 2 times the square root of 30. That's the first 4 problems. One more problem to go. Find cosine of alpha. There's a picture in the top left corner that with an angle labeled as alpha. There's a side on the triangle that has length 3 and another side that has length 7. Figure out what cosine of alpha is. Pause it to do that. When you're all finished, unpause. We'll talk about the solution. Welcome back. Cosine of alpha is the length of the side adjacent to the angle alpha. And when we say the side adjacent to here, we mean the side that's adjacent to it, but not the hypotenuse. And then we're going to divide by the length of the hypotenuse. So the length of the adjacent side is 3. The length of the hypotenuse is 7. So it's just 3 divided by 7. The answer is cosine of alpha equals 3/7. And that is the solution to this problem. Our final problem in this enrollment video. So this is the array of courses that incoming students to the University of Utah in terms of mathematics will often take. These were explained in more detail in the enrollment overview video. If you watched enrollment video B, and there were 5 problems there, if you got the solutions to those 5 problems correct, and if you were comfortable with those, then we recommend the 6 problems on your screen here. That is, if you also watch video C and video D, and for both C and D, you weren't as confident about how things went, then we think that these 6 courses on the screen would be excellent choices to enroll in. Which course that would be depends a little bit on your goals as an individual student, which gen ed requirements you're looking to satisfy, what your major requirements are, which math you would just like to see. One of these 6 courses provide excellent options, and we would recommend one of those. If you watched video B and that went well, and you just watched this trigonometry video D and you got the answers here correct and they were comfortable for you, but for video C, things were a little bit uncomfortable for you, then one of these 7 courses on the screen that you see here would be an excellent choice for you to enroll in, again, depending on what your individual concerns are as a student. If you watched video C and the 4 problems in that video you got correct and you were confident with their solutions, then any of the 9 courses that you see on the screen now would be good. And that is, I think I did not say, that is if video D didn't go quite so smoothly for you, if you weren't as comfortable with those solutions. That means that your trigonometry could use a brush up. And so maybe Math 1060, a trigonometry course, would be a great course. Maybe Math 1080 would be a great course. Math 1080 includes trigonometry in it. There's also 2 calculus courses that you could take, 1100 and 1215. Those are the 2 calculus courses we offer that don't require trigonometry. And so those would be great calculus courses to enroll in. And any course that you see on your screen here would be an excellent choice if you have that background. If you watched video C and D and you got correct solutions and you were comfortable with those solutions, then the courses on the screen that you see now would all be great choices to enroll in. That's a lot of courses. Let me see, it looks like it's about 12. Anyways, that's a lot of courses to choose from. And which course exactly that you want to take, again, depends on where you're headed as a student, what your major is, which gen ed requirements you're hoping to satisfy. And so those are things that advisors can help you with, and you can figure out which course that you'd like to take most. But any of the courses that's on the screen would be an excellent course to take if you watch C and D and were comfortable with those solutions. We do hope to see you enrolled in a math course soon. Thank you and welcome.